Good afternoon, book lovers of the internet. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because for every subscriber, I get a new subscriber and I also read a page from a book of my choice. I hope you are all having a fantastic Friday the 13th. And this is not at all what I was expecting. As you can see in today's video, I am going to be reviewing The Teacher by Freida McFadden. This one has about 380 pages, I would say, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars since I enjoyed it quite a lot, and I will be letting you know why in just a couple of seconds. There will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't read this one yet, make sure to click away, or if you don't intend on reading it, continue watching. So, this was my very first time reading a McFadden book, and although I enjoyed the story, this genre is certainly not for me. I feel as though Freida McFadden is the Colleen Hoover for the thriller genre, and Colleen Hoover is the author most people look up to for the romance genre, especially female readers. Let me know if I am mistaken here or not. But yeah, the thriller genre was never rather for me. If you take a look at my channel, I don't do a lot of thrillers because it's not something I particularly enjoy, but this one wasn't bad at all. And it's rather interesting that I finished reading this just now when Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters has been all over social media for cheating on his wife with another woman and also impregnating her. Now, you'd be asking, why am I bringing this up here? And this is because this story revolves around extramarital affairs, and I bought it for the reason that I plan on becoming a teacher one of these days. So I had no clue that it would be about cheating and adultery. I just bought it because I thought it's going to be extremely interesting. It's called The Teacher. How could there be anything wrong with it? I mean, the knife stuck in the apple on the cover should have given it away. But yeah, I mean, still not what I was expecting at all. And yeah, not the plot I had in mind. I must say that despite the small cast of characters, they are all developed extremely well and they are all extremely messed up. I mean, it got me questioning how truly morally ambiguous this whole story is and how deeply one can dive into the way the morals work within the story and whether it could be extended to Frida McFadden herself. So, this is, of course, what makes the story seem so real, and hence it immediately becomes very immersive. And I must admit that after Addie and Nate Berediv, this story went about in circles for at least 75 pages, since Addie didn't think Nate would rat her out, and Nate didn't think Addie would rat him out. So basically, we have two main characters, right, called Nate and Eve, who are both teachers at a school, and Addie is one of their students, right? Addie is taught by both of them, but she falls in love with Nate, who is doing the same sort of thing for the first time now, falling in love with a student. And this is certainly why I think that Nate is one of the most despicable and disgusting characters that I've ever had the misfortune of reading about. And although he's not necessarily a predator, he can't really be described as such, I think he'd fall into the ballpark of being called a groomer, probably. He is still, I mean, even if you didn't label him as such, he is still extremely manipulative, deceitful, and overall just a psycho. So, this is of course not to say that Addie does not have her fair share of problems, but what she does do can be justified more easily than what Nate does. So, Eve, on the other hand, is equally as crazy as Nate, and I quite hated her from the very beginning. Addie did for several chapters remind me of Bryony from Atonement by Ian McEwan, and certainly got on my nerves, but one has to keep in mind that she is still a child, right? At the end of the day, who has been fed the idea that her feelings are valid at any age, and that age should not play a role in morally ambiguous situations. And I mean, Bryony is one of my least favorite characters of all time, but I kind of understand Eddie's perspective in this story, despite me hating her still. So I'm not quite sure what McFadden had in mind, but the idea of girl power certainly came through here, and it took Kenzie, who was another of Nate's victims, one could say, to help Eddie see the truth. So the twist towards the end, where we're told that Nate started seeing Eve at the age of 15, much like he did with Kenzie and Eddie, was certainly unexpected and seems to completely justify what Eve did to her husband. So, I mean, as some other reviews mentioned, there are a bit of issues with the way the chronology works and with how Nate would have already been a teacher despite Eve being 15 years of age, and the whole time thing, since we are told how long they've been married, I believe. So there are some inconsistencies and some plot holes, but I didn't really read this to figure that out. When it comes to thrillers and detective sort of stories, I don't particularly care about the details. I just read it for the story and, to be thrilled, even though I am quite um, lacking in the emotional district. So I love how short the chapters are, how the suspense kept me turning the pages despite the rambling towards the middle part, and how Nate got what he deserved towards the end, and everything improved after his demise. So I think this might be one of the reasons why we can possibly get a sequel or at least a bit of an extension of the story, because there are still some questions which are not answered, although they're easy to draw conclusions from, right? But Eve is still seeing a married man, so Eve is still a cheater at the end of the day. Addie doesn't at all seem traumatized by what has just happened, and is in fact seeking to be in a relationship with Hudson, one of her best friends, which is completely weird considering what she has just been through, and seems to me to be rather unrealistic. And the police don't seem to care much with regard to what might have happened to Nate, even though they were investigating him just a couple of days prior. And all of this seems to have been forgotten, which is very, very strange to me. So, as I mentioned, drawing your own conclusions can be quite simple, and I think McFadden tied the loose ends together quite well. So, even if we do not get a sequel, um, I will still be thinking about this story from time to time. I mean, it is a rather long book when you really think about it, despite the short chapters. It took me some time to get through. But yeah, I mean, I found it to be rather enjoyable. And do let me know in the comment section whether there are any books by Freida McFadden which you would like me to read next. Some suggestions of any of her books which might be even better than The Teacher. I did overall enjoy the writing style, even though some of it did come across as generic and not particularly original. And yeah, I feel as though she has a good way of writing twists and certain things she doesn't say explicitly, and you have to draw the conclusions yourself anyway, as I also mentioned earlier. So that is all I have to say about The Teacher by Freida McFadden. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section. Check out the rest of my content because why not? And I will see you in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Bye, guys.